How's it going, everybody? My name is Philip. I promise you I do go outside. Doesn't matter how much these lights make me look like I'm a ghost. But today we're going to be reacting to 15 deadliest jobs in the world. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more. I'm sure there's a lot of other ones that people don't know of yet or have not realized. But I decided to react to this video specifically because somewhat recently, I'm sure there's a lot of people that have heard that apparently streaming is a very difficult. I mean, this is Deadliest, so it's a little bit different, but it's a tough job, and I could understand that to a certain level. It's difficult on a different level. You get to make your own hours, which is great. You get to be your own boss for the most part, which is great. But you got to deal with a lot of scrutiny, I'm sure, in such a sense. I've only tasted just a little nibble of it on my time doing reaction videos, saying stupid things like, how many weeks are in a year again? Anyways, so I'm very burpy all of a sudden, but anyways, yeah, I've said some stupid shit online as well. More like, it's like, are you fucking kidding? How do you not know such things? In which I have since tried to make sure I remember the answers to said things afterwards. just so I'm not as dumb. I'm always going to be dumb, okay? But hopefully I could be less dumb than I was the day before. That's all I can hope for, okay? So let's check out the 15 deadliest jobs in the world. Because streaming is definitely on the list. Here we go.
Let's face it, we've all had terrible days at work. Be it
Oh, yeah.
an angry boss, an unruly customer, or the occasional Karen. There are some
Ew.
jobs that are so
What's that
dangerous,
noise?
however, they'll put your troubles to shame. Today, we're taking
I'm sorry. 13 seconds in. What was that Karen noise?
some jobs that are so angry boss, an unruly customer, or the occasional Karen. There are some jobs that are so
Okay, I'm sorry. We need to go. We need to move this
dangerous,
on.
however, they'll put your troubles to shame. Today, we're taking a look at the top 15 riskiest jobs that will make you cringe. Number 15.
I don't know if it makes me cringe or
infantry
just make
soldiers.
me
It should come as no surprise
thankful
that
I'm
working
not doing
at any
it.
level in the military has some major risks. However, amongst all military positions, few have it as rough as the infantry soldiers. Typically at the bottom rung of the military hierarchy, these are the soldiers who do all of the hands-on work of interacting with locals, patrolling the hostile areas, and of course engaging in firefights.
Yeah, I don't know if I
Then
want to do that,
consider
honestly.
these everyday dangers often lead to conditions such as PTSD, which in extreme cases can lead to suicide. It's clear that this job certainly isn't for everyone. Number 14, loggers. We all know that working as
Oh,
a
that's interesting.
lumberjack has
Okay.
been glorified in Hollywood films for decades. But the truth of the matter is
Really?
that the job is easily one of the world's most dangerous. The main risks stem from the fact that
Okay, before I make my comments, let's listen.
loggers often work from heights, which can lead to large falls. And they also must contend with falling trees, which can crush them if they misjudge where they'll fall. When you then further consider that inclement weather, the fast-paced environment, and rough terrain all make the risk level go up a notch, it's clear that the life of a lumberjack is far from luxurious.
Okay, I was just about to say. Please correct me if I'm being a dumbass, which I probably am. But I would think that an army soldier would be a lot more dangerous than a logger. Maybe that's just me. I'm just saying, being shot at by people that want to do physical harm to you, I feel like that's a little bit more dangerous and deadly than falling off a tree. And no disrespect to people that do logging. I'm trying to make sure I'm not being disrespectful when I say it. But like, and maybe this is my lack of knowledge of how to cut trees properly. It's probably a lot more of that than anything else, but I get trees fall on you, and I get that, you know, animals tend to pop up out of places, and bears and shit sometimes surprise you with a little howdy do, and maybe even mountain lions. But like, if I'm gonna be completely honest, like, being shot at, cut down trees. And obviously that's oversimplifying it. It's just,
Number 13, police officers. Fighting crime is no easy task, so it shouldn't come as a surprise.
Especially here in the
working
US
as a police
nowadays.
officer is far from safe. And one of the most obvious dangers comes in the form of the criminals they apprehend, as these individuals will sometimes be willing to use deadly force in order to escape arrest. Beyond this, there are also risks that come with driving a police car, as accidents can easily occur in anything from a police chase to an everyday situation. As a result, being part of the police force is definitely dangerous. Number 12, firefighters.
yes, definitely.
While firefighting is unsurprisingly extremely risky, the dangers that come from it go far beyond the massive flames and falling debris that occur when fighting a fire.
It takes a toll on your body as well.
Fumes let off by one can be even more dangerous. In fact, the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health found that firefighters have more than double the chance of developing both testicular cancer and mesothelioma as a result of their exposure to said fumes.
Okay.
As a result, we think it's fair to say that fighting flames is a risky game when it comes to your health.
And plus, like, so my uncle has, hold on, I just saw what the next one, taxi drivers. Maybe it's just not in order. I'm thinking from like 15 to like the deadliest, or the least deadliest of the 15, and then the deadliest is number 1. That's what I was thinking, but clearly not. But then again, I'm not a taxi driver. See, again, I'm learning stuff, and maybe I should just shut my mouth. But especially after my uncle was a firefighter until he retired just a couple years back. He was in the force. Do they call it? Anyways, so he was part of firefighting force. He was part of the firefighters for so long, but he has a hard time walking now. Like, I guess it takes a massive toll on your knees because of all the lifting that you got to do. And maybe he just wasn't doing it properly or what, but he's been having a hard time walking around and just being active. I think he's even had surgery on both of his knees and still has a hard time. So, yeah, firefighters, mad respect to them all the time.
Number 11, taxi drivers. Although driving a taxi may not seem too risky at first glance, it turns out that it's a lot more dangerous than you may think. The first and most obvious risk is in fact that taxi drivers are constantly on the road, which makes them prone to traffic accidents that could potentially be fatal. There's also the risk that comes with handling money, as taxi drivers are often the victim of theft by criminals who want to make a quick buck. And while rideshare apps
How often do people pay with cash nowadays still?
such as Uber and Lyft have made the job safer by removing the cash element, considering the relatively low pay, it isn't exactly a high-risk, high-reward type job. Number 10, roofers. Unsurprisingly, roofing isn't exactly one of the safest jobs out there. After all, roofers are required to work at heights for hours on end, and especially on long, hot summer days. It certainly isn't out of the question for roofers to fall from the roofs
And
they're
just
working
construction
on,
workers
thanks
in
to a
general.
small slip or trip. Now, these accidents could be avoided if a roofer was to wear personal protection equipment. However, many out there either choose not to or are not supplied with it, which makes the job a lot more dangerous than it has to be. Rooftops are filled with other hazards as well that may not be as obvious at first glance. For example, what many don't realize is that the overhead electrical and telephone wires that hang over people's houses can be dangerous, as just one touch and a roofer can easily be electrocuted. There's also the fact that black tar is used in roofing is not exactly all that healthy, and ingesting it can lead to serious health problems down the line. But when you then consider that despite all of this, roofers only get paid about $40,000 per year, it becomes clear that the risk in roofing is probably not worth the reward.
Maybe I thought they got paid the same as construction workers. I don't know. I'm learning a lot. There's clearly a lot that I don't know.
Number 9, garbage men. Although the job of your neighborhood garbage man may look a lot more dirty than dangerous, it turns out that working in waste management is far from safe.
Oh, especially if there's needles.
Twice that of police officers. It's not the stench that gets to garbage men, but rather the contents of the garbage they put in the truck. So due to most things being wrapped up in garbage bags, it can be hard for these workers to see exactly what is being thrown away. As a result, glass shards flying out of a bag, corrosive materials being thrown inside a truck, or dangerous chemicals leaking onto their skin, garbage men really have to be ready to expect everything and anything.
Or dead bodies.
As a consequence, despite earning a respectable salary, about $60,000 per year in some municipalities, It takes just one bad bag for a serious fatality to occur.
Yeah, or like I've been watching a lot
We're
of
constantly adding more people to the top
like
production
criminal
team to
like
bring you all
YouTube
the best
videos
content.
and stuff.
Be sure
And some
to
of the people that be
subscribe with notifications
some
on,
dude cut
and
up a
hit
body
the
and
like
put it
button.
in a
Number 8,
in a
underwater.
in like a travel bag, a suitcase. That's what I'm thinking. Put it in a suitcase and just leaves it out by the garbage. I'm like, disgusting.
Welders.
Oh yeah.
Working with power tools is already dangerous enough, but when you add an underwater element, the job really does get a whole lot
What
riskier.
the fuck?
Now, underwater welders have two main types of risk to deal with. The first group being risks associated with diving in deep water, and the second being those associated with welding. Regarding the dives, underwater welders routinely have to deal with decompression sickness caused by surfacing from water too quickly, hypothermia from cold temperatures, and drowning due to faulty equipment. However, regarding the welding itself, underwater welders are constantly under the threat of explosions or electrocution. This is because the arc of the blowtorch often behaves erratically in water.
Yeah,
One
I would
wrong
think
move
so.
can easily lead to a dangerous part of the machine being welded, bursting apart. As a result, underwater welding is thankfully a job that only very well-trained specialists are permitted to practice.
Yeah, someone was trying to talk me into being a welder, and I was like,
Number 7,
I don't know about
construction
that.
workers. If you've ever so much as laid eyes on a construction site, you'll be well aware that the fact that they're not exactly the safest of workspaces. And while the risks are plentiful, one of the most glaring is the threat of falling. After all, while construction workers are usually
especially
mandated
back
to
in the
wear
day,
personal protective equipment or PPE, they often don't, making a fall from a building ledge, ladder, or truck deadly. However, there are many other on-site injuries in which even PPE wouldn't be able to keep you safe, with the most notable being electrocution from unprotected wires, being hit by a heavy object such as a piece of drywall, or being stuck between two objects being pushed together.
oh,
And
that
even
would
beyond
suck.
all these dangers, there's also the risk of lung cancer and other respiratory problems that come from breathing in residues from building materials, such as gypsum dust, fiberglass, and wood shavings. As a result, working in construction is easily one of the riskiest jobs out there.
I didn't know any of that. Interesting.
6. Landscapers. Although cutting the grass or trimming a hedge isn't likely to harm you in any way, shape, or form, it turns out that landscapers have one of the most dangerous jobs out there.
From like heat stroke
Most
or
of the
something?
danger comes not from their physical work, but from the amount of driving they do between work sites. You see, landscapers typically move from client to client throughout the day, and as a result, the amount of time they spend on the road makes them highly susceptible to traffic accidents. These workers also often use power tools, leading to the possibility of electrocution if they're not careful. Yet to top this off, landscapers will at times even use dangerous chemicals such as pesticides to spray the lawns they work on, with these having the potential to poison a landscaper if not handled properly. As a result, the unfortunate reality is that across the United States, landscapers are 5 times more likely to die on the job than the average worker.
What? That is not something I would have thought of.
Number 5, commercial fishermen.
Yeah, I can
While
see
the
that.
dangers of fishing really do depend on the locale, deep-sea commercial fishermen easily have one of the toughest jobs on the planet.
I know nothing about deep sea fishing. The only thing I've ever, maybe not even just deep sea, but just regular fishing. I've only ever seen like the commercials for like the Discovery Channel or History Channel's like fishing show or whatever the hell. I'm like, hell no. I'm sure I don't even know how many people be flying off or be pushed off the boat because the waves be crashing in. That's not something I'm mad respect for anyone that does this shit. That's insane.
Now, on one hand, the inherent conditions of the job are very dangerous. After all, the ocean is often fraught with large waves, strong winds, and torrential downpours, and thus it shouldn't come as a surprise that being stuck on a boat deck while trying to get some fish into the vessel isn't exactly easy.
Yeah.
There's also the issue of isolation, as boats are generally far from the coast and the Coast Guard. Therefore, if a ship springs a leak or if someone gets injured while on board, there isn't exactly anyone to call to help remedy the situation. This is made worse by the fact that there are few regulations mandating that professional fishermen must be trained in first aid. Unless if first aid is required, there's a high chance that no one on board will really know what to do.
Maybe they should be
The most dangerous
trained.
factor of them all is that despite all of these terrible conditions, boats will often try to compete with each other to catch the most fish possible during a fishing season.
I
As a
guess I
result,
can
fishermen
understand.
will often work at tugging 100-pound lines and nets for hours on end with almost no sleep, causing their bodies to go through severe mental and physical strain. As a result, it should come as no surprise that with a fatality rate of 77 per 100,000 workers,
Oh my
offshore
gosh.
fishing is easily one of the most dangerous jobs in the world.
Nah, that is
Number
ridiculous.
4, airline pilots. Although the
Interesting.
addition of airline pilots may not come as much of a surprise, the reason for their placement here may shock you. Airline pilots are distinguished among many other jobs on this list for being extremely well trained. After all, they typically must complete 1,500 hours of airtime before attaining their pilot's license, and once earned, they can often make a pretty high salary. Of course,
Yeah.
occurrences such as terrorist attack, medical emergencies, and bad weather can all lead to a plane going down, and certainly make
Yeah.
the job more risky than most. Yet a much more silent, yet even more deadly killer that pilots face is the radiation from their planes, as pilots consistently suffer from higher rates of cancer thanks to
Really?
their constant exposure. But what's interesting is that all of the fearsome factors at play, it's actually personal error on the part of the pilot that's their biggest killer. However, we're not convinced whether or not this is exactly reassuring. It must also be remembered that not all airline pilots are the same. That's because while pilots flying across simple routes in large planes are generally safe, the same cannot be said for charter pilots. That's because these pilots, who often work on small planes in remote and often extreme destinations, are more likely to have both bad weather conditions on their routes.
Oh yeah, I can
and
totally
have
see the
little
smaller
help due to
planes
their remote location.
having more
Regardless,
problems.
no matter what plane you work on, being a pilot is certainly not all it's cracked up to be. Number 3, truck drivers. Despite there definitely being appeal to going out on the open road, barreling down the
Ooh,
highway,
but then you've gone from
the
your
life of a
family for
truck
how long
driver is a
too?
lot more dangerous than you might think. This is because even one misstep in the loading, shipping, or unloading process can easily lead to a driver being seriously injured.
Also, when people just cut you off, like they think that you're able to stop, like it's super easy. Like I worked at a warehouse one time, and someone cut off a big rig, and there was a massive ass fire, and it was ridiculous. And I'm just like, the fuck. It just blows my mind how some people sometimes don't realize how long it takes for a big rig to fully come to a stop. You know, like it's crazy.
Killed. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is that loading a truck is a much more serious task than it may look like at first glance. That's because if anything on a load is not strapped or secured properly, it can easily become loose, come off the truck, and damage either the truck itself or surrounding cars. Unfortunately, it's this type of carelessness that leads to thousands of
That would
accidents
suck.
every year. There's also the factor of speed to consider. After all, truck drivers generally work on a tight schedule, and as a result, the quicker they complete the job, the quicker they get paid. Therefore, many drivers will speed down roadways with little regard to the cars around them.
Yeah, and they
which
need to be
unfortunately leads
going
to
like
accidents,
55
occurring when
mainly.
trucks then collide with another vehicle. This is furthered by the fact that many truck drivers will ignore the legal limits and drive for many hours longer than they are permitted to, causing them to become fatigued and drowsy in the truck. And it's in this unalert state of mind that can also lead to major accidents. When you then further consider that other factors such as equipment failure, weather, and other drivers can all
I didn't even
lead
think
to
of
on-the-road
equipment failure.
fatalities, it's clear that the work of a truck driver is nothing if not tough. Number 2, farmers. While farming is an industry that
For
has
what?
existed
For like
millennia,
pesticides?
in recent years it has become a lot more dangerous than you might think. This is primarily because the large machines farmers use in their day-to-day activities can be rather hazardous. A prime example of this are the tractors they use in their fields. This is because while they may seem safe on the surface, even the most experienced of operators can have a tractor tip over if it hits a bump in the soil. And while
Really?
all new tractors come with rollover protection systems and seatbelts, many older models do not. And these older models account for about 50% of the tractors currently in use in the United States. Given that this makes tractors exponentially more likely to roll over and crush a driver, it's easy to see why they can be dangerous.
Okay, it's
However,
not
the
what I
tractor
thought.
isn't the only menacing machine found on the farm.
Oh, yeah.
Another just as dangerous device are the corn pickers and combines used to harvest corn and wheat. This is because
Look at all
these
the
machines
birds,
will often
damn.
travel at speeds of about 3 to 4 meters per second. Therefore, when farmers try to make repairs on the machines after they jam in the middle of a field, they will sometimes lose arms and legs in the process. When you then further consider that other hazards such as grain silos, dangerous chemicals, and loneliness are also present in farms, it's clear that farming is a lot harder than it may seem. Number 1, astronauts.
Oh yeah, no, I mean,
Despite being some of the most highly trained professionals on the
Yeah,
planet,
yeah,
it turns out that
100%.
blasting through the vacuum of space isn't exactly the safest of jobs.
Who'd have
In
thought?
particular, there are two aspects of an astronaut's work that are especially dangerous: physical space launches and radiation exposure. Now, physical space
Really?
launches are a pretty obvious one. After
Radiation?
all, anyone who's watched the Challenger
From
or
what?
Columbia disasters on TV knows that it doesn't take much for an entire spaceship to burst into flames. However, what many don't realize is that astronauts also experience a lot of radiation. In fact, as put by NASA, the equivalent of 150 to 6,000 chest x-rays, depending on the length of the mission.
Damn.
This is furthered by the fact that prolonged time in a weightless environment can have severe effects on an astronaut's musculoskeletal system.
Now, obviously, I'm a big sci-fi fan, but and maybe this is just because I'm a huge sci-fi fan and I've watched way too many space movies and shows. They don't have like something to help keep them. I feel like that's a dumb question, but I actually thought they might have had something that would help make them like some sort of gravity system or something. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. I thought for some reason that maybe they might have, figured something out. But I'm guessing maybe not. I don't know. Okay, I don't know.
It's normal for muscles to atrophy, bones to deteriorate, and brains and fluids to change in shape and position due to the lack of gravity. As a result, even if they never are the victim of a mechanical issue for their entire career, astronauts will almost definitely have an increased risk of health problems in their later years. However, one final consideration to keep in mind is that the mental health of astronauts is constantly challenged, both on Earth and in space.
Oh, I can see that.
Hours of research and constant training is nothing if not demanding. And to have to do this intensive work, not just on Earth, but in the vacuum of space, can be very isolating and lead to burnout. When you then remember that astronauts are almost always under public scrutiny and have a lot of pressure on them to perform their duties well, it becomes clear that their job is unimaginably stressful.
Yeah, I could 100% agree with the astronaut one.
That's all we have for you today, everyone, and thank you all for watching. Let us know in the comments down below which job you thought was the most dangerous.
So, that was not necessarily what I was thinking. I thought they were going to do like an order. Like, obviously, I could see astronauts being number one. Right? Especially if you didn't clamp on properly and all of a sudden you start floating off. Yeah, you're kind of screwed there, bud. I wonder how often that actually happens. That would be terrifying. Just floating off into the depth of nothingness while you're looking at your planet, starving to death. Oh, I don't want to think. No, I'm not thinking about that no more. I thought they were going to go in order, so I thought it was going to be like astronauts, then like military, then police, firefighters. I thought it was going to go in order, but clearly it didn't go in order. I feel like I probably would have put truck drivers and maybe construction, maybe not necessarily, but garbage men, roofers, taxi drivers. I would have put them more towards the end, like some of them were, but soldiers and police officers and firefighters, those are not 15 to 13. Those are 2 to 7, 2 to 4. Okay, 2 to 5, let's be real. Oh, very gassy today. I don't know why. Luckily, you can't smell it. But basically, I was going to say, check out my Twitch. I've been wanting to live stream a little bit more because someone said it was super difficult, and I wanted to give it a shot. I tried at one point, and I couldn't be very consistent. So I want to start live streaming more often. So go check out and follow me on Twitch, and I would like to try on YouTube, but I don't know how to multi-stream. I'll have to look that up. But go follow me there, subscribe for more content, and I'll see you guys in the upcoming videos. Leave a like rating if you enjoyed this video, and let me know what else I should react to in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys next time.